Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fans Perspective. I'm your host, Steve Hatch.
I'm Mike Greco. I'm refusing to say co-host.
He's the co-host. Anyway, there's a reason why you're the co-host. It's because the fans send me questions. And I've been, just like to thank one fan in particular for today's edition. His name is Phil Warren. He actually suggested this episode. I told him I would get it out there for him. So thank you, Phil, and thank you for watching the show. Continue to watch. Today's your topic. It's about heel and face turns.
So you're trying to tell me that makes you the host because one person, not 5, 10, 15, 686 followers like some of us have, sends you a message on a topic, and that makes you the host.
Well, I believe that in the last edition, I also got tweeted the question.
By a guy that sits on a couch and watches a baby all day. Go ahead, let's go. I'm frustrated already.
Anyways, that was a very heelish thing to say there.
No, that was natural.
That was a natural heel. Well, thank you for taking my segue. I was today, like I said, we're talking about heels and face turns in professional wrestling. As anyone here knows, professional wrestling is made up of baby faces and heels. Traditionally, the baby faces are cheered and the heels are booed. Now, to make a turn, you gotta be over in the first place.
Yes.
It depends on a lot of things: the performer, the strength of character, the strength of the story, and what really gets a turn over. Turns are really, they kind of suck you in. They kind of show this is different from just a sport.
Yes.
What would you say, heel and face turns? How have they shaped, your fandom of professional wrestling throughout the years?
Well, growing up, we do it all the time. We mentioned Shawn Michaels, and this is what I'm going to do. The first real heel thing I really remember was Shawn Michaels throwing Marty Jannetty through a barbershop window. That was his partner. That was his friend. They were both good guys. They were the Rockers, and they hug each other. The super kick comes, and he throws him through a barbershop window. If that doesn't scream, hey, I'm a bad guy, I don't know what does.
Exactly. I mean, things like that is what get you into the story.
Yes.
It's like Macho Man and Hulk Hogan when they were the Mega Powers. They got together. They built the story, but the Macho Man was jealous of Hogan and the attention he was paying to Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of used that jealousy to turn the crowd, because the crowd was loving him at the time.
Yeah.
He used that jealousy, and like I said, that was an example of a guy who's over, just like the Rocker, Shawn Michaels, guys who are over, the guys who fans have a connection with, and they just tug on the heartstrings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's also another way to do a turn, mostly for face turns. It's if the crowd, if you're a heel and the crowd begins to starting to accept the guy's work, and they say, hey, I know he's supposed to be a bad guy, but I like him.
Which, to me, that's more common now than it was back when, we first started watching wrestling. Because you had guys like Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, who went out and put on great matches all the time, but he was just known as a bad guy. Or you would throw someone like Bobby Heenan with him, or he had the coach for a while. And this happened with other guys, too, that it had nothing to do with their workmen. And this is what I'm saying, in our earlier days, where now, when you're a good worker, people are going to cheer you. Whether
it does seem to happen, but it still happened back then with Mr. Perfect. Of course, he made that face turn in '92 when he joined the Macho Man, Randy Savage, taking on Ric Flair and Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. Face turns, we're going to talk about face turns real quick because they seem to happen more naturally. They don't seem to happen as sudden.
Yes.
One face turn I clearly remember would be Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was obviously a heel. He had challenged Bret Hart after the Iron Man match. The crowd started to get behind Stone Cold Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. That was really one of the first times, too, that you started to see just a shift in everything. Because Austin, he's a traditional heel character. But the crowd started to like his personality. They started to like his matches. And he kind of used that to become the number one face in the business.
Yep, absolutely.
The Rock is another one.
The Rock is another one, yeah, exactly. And the same thing, Actually, The Rock, if you remember, started as a face and came out and did the whole Nation Domination thing and became just this hated heel. And it's like as soon as he became this wretched bad guy, people were like, oh, I kind of like this guy. It's so funny how it works like that, too, with performers.
It even happened with Shawn Michaels, too, because we talk about one of the greatest heel turns of all time when he throws him through the window, but the fans really started to get behind Shawn Michaels. I remember as a kid when he won that Royal Rumble in '95. Yep. That's when I started to become a Shawn Michaels fan because you started, like I said, it was one of those things where you started to appreciate, that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you slowly started to get behind him,
mm-hmm.
and the crowd slowly started to accept him. So face turns really happen are really, they can't really be forced.
They're organic.
Yeah.
They're natural. It happens over time. One of the guys that constantly, as much as you try to make him a heel, that I feel is constantly is Randy Orton.
He seems to eventually get over.
Randy Orton is the guy that when he's a face, everybody hates him. He's boring, his promos stink and all this stuff. The second that guy becomes a bad guy and starts punting people in the head, oh, Randy Orton is so great, let's cheer Randy Orton. And, it happens everywhere. It happens in every company, happens in, TNA, ROH, that these guys that are just, hated, after a while you start to like them. But the other thing, prime example, Nigel McGuinness from Ring of Honor. I know there was a time in late 08, 09 that Nigel was the hottest thing going. He was one of the best wrestlers. He had the championship. The second they put the title on him, people went from loving him to, all this guy throws his clotheslines. All he could do is a McLarian.
Well, we're going to get into more of the modern era, but you're right, fans, like even John Cena at the time, look, we all know with John Cena now, but at the time he was a heel, he was the rapper heel, he got over as a face, the crowd appreciated him, and that's how you turn a guy a face. Now, you had some failed face turns like The Miz, who they kind of just made him face because they didn't have anything else to do with him.
Yep, absolutely.
And you saw how that worked out. Alberto Del Rio was another one.
Yep.
It was just kind of like he was there, and they just made him one day he's a face.
The performer has to buy into it too. Like, you have to see that the person really wants this. Like you said, like Alberto Del Rio, I never believed for a second was accepting the fact that, hey, I want you to cheer me now. I'm just going to go see, because everybody's going, yes, yes.
And this is not a knock on Alberto Del Rio. I feel he's a great talent, but he's a natural heel.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd liked him, but it wasn't like he's not. I don't think they liked him in a sense like where like how CM Punk turned face, the crowd started to get behind him. And that's what really it has to happen. It has to happen organically.
Organically, yeah.
There's no other way. Now, if you want to get into heel turns, which we're going to get into, because I feel a lot of people mostly remember the heel turns. When we talk about turns, they're talking about heel turns.
Yes.
They're talking about Hogan dropping the leg on Macho Man and joining the NWO. I'm thinking of when Shawn Michaels came back and Triple H and him came out as DX, and then Triple H hit him with that pedigree where he jumped over him. That's the heel turns is really what you remember.
Yep.
The barbershop window.
And I mean, you can get more, into modern time where, Randy Orton comes out and he has the Money in the Bank. Triple H is now the authority and he pedigrees Daniel Bryan. And, here Daniel Bryan just beat John Cena clean. He's the most over thing they could possibly be. And Orton comes out, joins the authority. It's like, all right, now we hate these guys. Like, you made them the bad guys.
And there's definitely, you have to be, and another thing with heel turns, you have to be accepted of the person as a face for a heel turn to get over. Otherwise, they're just being a heel for the sake of being a heel.
Right. How many guys do the classic run? Sheamus recently. Daniel Bryan and Ziggler are getting beaten down by Barrett. Sheamus runs out. Everybody goes crazy. What happens? Bro kick Ziggler. Bro kick Daniel Bryan. Sheamus is a bad guy.
And it's really you can do heel turns, but it's tough nowadays, like what you mentioned, to stay heel.
Yes.
Because it seems like every time a face turns heel and they get over, the crowd starts to cheer them again. And I mean, we've had heel turns that didn't work as well. I don't think many people remember, but in 1999, Sting became a heel for a short time in WCW, and it just
didn't work.
He didn't buy into it. Same thing with the face. So you talk about you don't feel like the character bought into it. People didn't really want to see Sting and he didn't really do anything shocking. He just one day he was a heel.
Yeah, and it's things like like you said, when you try to force it down people's throats, they're just not gonna like it. I feel when Stone Cold tried to go heel after WrestleMania 17, same thing. Like he was trying so hard to be a bad guy and do all these dastardly things. But it just wasn't working. Like, he was still Stone Cold. He was still coming out, throwing up middle fingers, drinking beers. And he even says at the time, too, he regrets it.
You know what I think it was with Stone Cold? He had already been a heel. And he got turned over as a face. And he was so over as a face at the time. And if you even watch the match, the crowd I think they were more ready to boo The Rock.
Right.
But I think that since The Rock was making movies at the time, they kind of felt like they had to go. Austin wanted to do – I've seen interviews. Austin said he wanted to try something fresh. Mm-hmm. He tried to heel. Let's face it, he was damn entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
As the heel. So I think that's another reason why it kind of failed.
Stone Cold's the kind of guy, he puts a video on YouTube that he's singing and dancing to a drunken 80s song, and everybody's going to watch and everybody's going to laugh.
He's still Stone Cold Steve
He's Stone Cold, exactly.
It's hard. It is hard for some guys, or like Chris Jericho, who was a heel most of his career. It's hard for these guys to get booed nowadays.
Chris Jericho had one of the
greatest heel turns.
Great heel turns.
Yes.
I mean, and you could see it was coming, the build up to it, what had happened with Shawn Michaels beat Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24 to retire him. And, this whole thing with Batista, where Shawn faked an injury and all this stuff. And what eventually it leads to is Chris Jericho throwing Shawn Michaels through the Jericho. And it was a pretty impactful thing.
And it led to an amazing feud in that time.
Yes.
And it was just a crazy
Chris Jericho punched Shawn Michaels' wife in the face.
That's right.
She eats a fist to the mouth, something we would all love to do at some point.
If you haven't seen this feud, if maybe you fell off of wrestling in that time or whatever reason you may be, go back to 2008 and watch some of these matches.
Mm-hmm.
Watch this feud. If you can watch the Raw where Jericho turns, because that was a perfectly executed heel turn. And it was building for so long.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel that is the perfect example to me of a heel turn done to perfection.
Speaking of heel and face turns, I believe we're getting close to our new segment on the show.
Yes, we are actually. We're going to get into Fans 5, which is all about matches. We're going to rank the matches with the top 5 heel and face turns in them. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, it's Fans 5. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Fans Perspective. I'm your host, Steve Hatch.
Mike Greco.
And I had to do it, I'm sorry. But we're back, and we're here with the newest segment of Fans Perspective, the Fans 5, where we rank our personal 5 favorite matches, including the topic. So this is our personal 5 favorite matches, including heel and face turns. Since I keep kind of ragging on you as the co-host, I will once again let you be the first to reveal your Fan 5. Do it in any order you like.
The talent goes first. That's all. You know what? We're just going to get into this. We're not going to argue about this anymore. So, ladies and gentlemen, for my Fan 5 this week, I've decided to think a little out of the box, like you clearly could tell that I do. So, number 1, of course, is probably the most dramatic heel turn of all time, Hulk Hogan joining the NWO. Bash at the Beach 96, the whole outsider thing was being built up. It was Sting, Lex Luger, and the Macho Man versus the Outsiders and a mystery opponent who hadn't gotten there yet. In the match, Lex Luger gets hurt. He has to get taken away with a stretcher. So it's Sting and Macho to fend for themselves. Hulk Hogan comes out. The place is going crazy. Something that he got in trouble for, but I think it just made it so much better is Bobby Heenan saying, yeah, but whose side is he on?
Well, if you, not to interject, if you go through Heenan's career, he always was skeptical of
Hogan. He never liked Hogan. So it
just being consistent.
Yes, and it made it that much more impactful when he drops that leg, gets up, gives the thumbs. Real quick backstory. At the time, Hogan wasn't getting over as well in WCW. The South fan base hadn't liked him and embraced him the way the East Coast and the North did. So, it was fresh. It was new. And it was something that nobody ever saw coming. Next I'm going with a face turn that's a little, like we said earlier, a little organic. And that's Randy Orton's face turn at WrestleMania 26. Match was built up between him and former Legacy members Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes. At the time, you felt that Cody and Ted were going to be bigger than bigger stars.
I think they thought Ted was going to be the face.
Ted was being primed to be the guy. They had an epic triple threat match. It was so much fun to watch. The crowd was into it. Orton brings out the punt, which he hadn't done in a little while at that time. The best is after the match, he climbs the ropes, he does the pose, which he hadn't done in years.
And they had the symbol.
The symbol, exactly. And it felt great. Like, it was like, we love Randy Orton again. This was his first real time as a face that you felt that it was going to work. Next, I have the Austin Mania 17 heel turn.
Oh, yeah.
Stone Cold came back from neck surgery, won the Royal Rumble that year, went on to WrestleMania, faced The Rock in Houston. And, at the time, Austin wasn't feeling great about the character. So during the match, Vince McMahon walks out. He has a steel chair in his hand. You probably think, well, Vince is going to give it to Rock. And that's not what happened. He gives it to Austin. Austin absolutely wails Rock as many times as humanly possible.
Sure did.
And at the end of the match, he shake Vince McMahon's hand. And I believe the comment from Jim Ross is Stone Cold has shaken hands with the devil. And it's one of those things that you never thought you would see. Next I go, and this is something a little different. Paul Bearer turning on The Undertaker at SummerSlam 96.
I like it.
The build with that was the Boiler Room match, which they fought all over the building, The Undertaker and Mankind. They eventually get to the ring. You know, the power of the urn is what always kept The Undertaker going. And he leans over, and the way to win the match was Paul Bearer had to hand you the urn. And Undertaker puts his hand up on the one knee like he's done so symbolically for so many years, and Paul Bearer just turned away and refused. And Undertaker did it again, and Paul Bearer clobbers him with the urn.
I was shocked by that one.
Yeah, and as a kid, it was one of those things of, wow, what just happened? Now I'm going to go a little out of the box here, and I know you're not the biggest indie guy. I know you're not the biggest fan of.
That's okay.
But we appreciate everything.
All wrestling here. If it's good, it's good.
And maybe because I was there, it feels also a little different. I'm going to bring up the Kevin Steen, which you may know him now as Kevin Owens, heel turn on his tag team partner El Generico at Final Battle 2010. Now, interestingly enough, in that match, they fought the Young Bucks, who are very big on the indie scene now, as everybody knows who they are, Bullet Club and all that stuff. And what happened was Steen and Generico lost the match, and afterward they have this beautiful private moment where they hug each other, and a lot of reports were saying that because Kevin Steen was having a baby, he was going to be taking time off, and this may have been the end. And he pulls him close, and he has the microphone, he goes, I love you, and all this stuff. He goes, but I'm tired of you ruining everything. And he just proceeds to beat the absolute hell out of El Generico. And it led into one of the most fiercest rivalries and matches that culminated a year later. It was a year-long rivalry.
Because I think it's still going on.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because now it's going on in NXT as, El Generico reportedly is Sami Zayn, and Kevin Owens is, of course, Kevin Steen. But at the time, it led into such a rivalry, and it just felt so natural. And his being a bad guy just felt pure. And that's what I got for my Fan 5.
Okay, that was some good picks. I'm going to go, and like I said, I like to go in reverse order here.
Problem.
So we're going to do that. Now, I just want to, the first one I'm going to bring up, my number 5, because like I said, this is not impactful. This is just personal. The 6-man from Bash at the Beach, Hogan turning on the NWO.
Of course.
That heel turn was so big, that's what actually got me to watch WCW.
Interesting.
Hearing about that. So that you cannot mention heel turns without mentioning that. Number 4, Rock versus Hogan from WrestleMania 18. Hogan's face turn. Hogan had just come back to the WWE for the first time in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
The fans, he was back as the NWO was awesome. The fans were ready to embrace Hogan, though, and the Toronto crowd was probably about 90% behind Hogan.
67,000 mother canuckers.
That's absolutely right. They were booing The Rock. They're cheering Hogan, and Hogan was faced right after the match.
Oh, yeah.
And sadly, the NWO was kind of done in the WWE at that time.
And Rock embraced it, too.
He did, and he did play professionally.
Yep.
Number 3, War Games 97. Now, that was when Kurt Hennig, Arn Anderson had done his emotional retirement, and Kurt Hennig was picked as the partner in the War Games to face the NWO.
He got his spot.
Yeah, that's right. He got his spot. Yeah, his spot. Well, Kurt Hennig turned right on them and joined the NWO, and it was a shocking moment because you didn't expect it.
Yeah, he slams the cage door on Ric Flair's head.
Number 2, Austin and Rock, WrestleMania X7. This has been such an important heel turn, even though we talked about it. Well, that's what they call it.
No, it is. Continue. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
But I know a lot of people that were so impacted by heel turn. They kind of know that as it's like the end of the Attitude Era. They kind of say it into Ruthless Aggression. So anything that's considered end of an era, you have to include on the list. Huh? And my number 1, this includes a face and a heel turn, and they were both natural. Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. All you have to know about this match is the ending.
Yep. The
blood coming down Austin's face. The fans getting behind Austin. He passes out. The fans rejecting Bret Hart's old school, style. The double switch. And that is probably got to be the hardest thing to pull off in wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, that had to happen organically, and it was one of the best matches of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you're not going to see that every day in wrestling.
No, you're not going to, you almost never see it. It's one of those. It's the shooting star. It's the blue moon. To have and you're not, and you're 1,000% correct on that one. And we had spoken before about it. That's why I wanted you to speak about it. You had Bret Hart, who is the good guy of all good guys. And then here you have Stone Cold, who cheated to win the Royal Rumble that year, and all this dirty, underhanded stuff he's been doing. He's walking around saying Austin 3:16 because he's mocking that Jake the Snake had his Bible stuff and everything.
He's mocking the Bible.
The Bible, okay? And like that, everyone loves Stone Cold, and Bret Hart was a bad guy. Let that fester. Bret Hart was a bad guy. And at that time, growing up, Bret Hart wasn't a bad guy. Bret Hart was the goody two-shoe of all good guys.
It's funny. It was an interesting time because a lot of international fans still were behind Bret.
Oh, yeah.
It was really more the American fans. And then you had something where you didn't see where Bret went Canada and he was cheered in Canada and booed in the U.S.
Yeah.
But see, Austin got so over, he was being cheered everywhere.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny that, you say it's just wrestling. Let me tell you, at that time, if you would have put a Canadian flag in front of me, I would have spit on it. Because it actually made you hate a country because of a wrestler.
That's true. It's the emotional.
And it goes the same for up there. I remember seeing the poster that somebody had. It was the Hart Foundation. Pardon my French. Peeing on the American flag.
I remember that era. And that was, like I said, it brought up a lot of interesting topics. And we're going to go into, now that was just something, like you said, that it's hard to catch today. Now, we're going to go a little bit into, I want to discuss the modern era because we're getting into a time, and you brung it up before, we're getting into a time where heels are getting cheered. You turn heel, you're getting cheered. It's hard to really get the balance you want. Traditional faces are not getting cheered, they're getting booed, but they're still acting as faces. And this has been happening for a while, but now you're seeing the crowd kind of catch on to it too. Do you feel that it's going to be harder to execute heel and face turns in the future just simply because of the reaction?
Yes, because, and I'll give you the perfect example, and I was thinking about this. At WrestleMania 30, Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker's streak. And Brock Lesnar was booed. He's a part-timer. How dare he, end this great thing of amazingness that's the streak. And what did they do? They brought Brock Lesnar out at SummerSlam to face John Cena. The ultimate, what people don't like to hear, neutral. Okay? Because John Cena has done everything he can to be a good guy.
It's funny. I just want to bring up a point. I think John Cena at times has been the number one face and the number one heel at the same time.
Yes.
Because you have fans, the traditional idea of a heel is that fans want to see them get their ass beat. And there were fans who hated John Cena that were tuning in. They were purposely watching to see him get beat.
And I give the WWE all the credit in the world. Is exactly what they did in that match. They had Brock Lesnar absolutely decimate John Cena, and it was great. It was absolutely great. But there you go. That's to me, Brock Lesnar is the ultimate, the double switch. That it's always going to happen. But now it's to the point that Brock Lesnar is so dominant that as much as a bad guy as you want to make him, hashtag bad guy you.
Bad guy you.
He's going to get over. And that's the problem that happens now. Guys like Wade Barrett, who came out, insulting everyone, knocking a gavel on a thing, telling that he has bad news. People hate it. It's the stupidest thing. After a while, you say, wow, this guy's pretty clever. He's pretty funny. I like this.
It's true. I think that nowadays you're seeing that more. And it's tough because when you're working on the aspect of a match, someone's got to play the face and someone's got to play the heel. Now, do you, as a worker, do you think they have to kind of play to the crowd, or do they need to just realize that the fans are going to cheer and boo whoever they want, and we're going to be heel? I don't care if I get cheered, I'm the heel. Or are they just going to try to say, oh, well, I'm going to act more of a face because I'm getting cheered, but then that leads to them getting booed. So it's kind of puts guys in a tough position. But that's really the best. You see, that's why you're the co-host. You see, that's why you're the co-host.
That's kind of funny. My phone is on silent, and I don't know how that happened. Anyway, I apologize, everybody.
Heel turn. That was a heel turn.
That's my heel. You know what? Hold on. That's my agent, okay?
Yeah, whatever.
Yes, Agent Cerruti. No, they're not paying me enough. All right, I'll get back to you. Thank you. Okay.
Anyways, if we can put this foolishness aside.
Hey, I'm sorry. I got to do what I got to do sometimes. I don't get paid enough by this company. And actually, there was one more instance I wanted to bring up to you very, very, very quickly.
I think I might know, but...
And that was the CM Punk heel turn at the Raw 1000. that no matter
They
what
still
CM
cheer.
Punk did, The Rock came out that night, again, a part-timer that people cry about and all this stuff that, he had to do something different, and it's exactly what he did.
I think we're going to see a lot of guys, and the best workers are going to do this. I think that they're going to just do the crowd reaction how it is, and they're going to just say, we got to play heel and face, and they're just going to leave everything how they are. And, I think there's two different audiences nowadays. You got the kid audience who are going to go for those traditional face heel roles, and then you got the older audience who I think is going to say, I'm going to cheer for who I want to cheer for. So I think guys who are going to be heels, they're not going to worry so much about cheered. Whereas back in the day, you get cheered as a heel, you're like, what am I doing and what am I doing wrong?
Right. And back to your point of, should they embrace it or should they just let it go? We're not the fans know more due to stuff like the internet and even shows like ours. People aren't stupid. So you have to go with it,
I think so. And time will tell. Well, we talked a lot about, heels and face turns today. And keep on, like I said, this was suggested by a fan. So keep on sending your suggestions to Boneyard Productions on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Subscribe. Please go on our Instagram, leave comments any way you want to. Let us know. Hashtag FansRespective, hashtag Boneyard. Let us know what you want to see on the show.
Wait a second. Time out. So basically we're saying I'm the bad guy and you're the good guy.
I think we are.
All right. So with that said, then I'd like to thank you for coming to my show tonight and watching me. A couple more hashtags: poo-poo, hashtag bad guy you, hashtag heel, hashtag babyface,
will you stop?
Hashtag woman beater. Don't you ever forget that.
Well, that's
because if you do, it's a black eye. And at the end, hashtag double switch. I'm Mike Greco, your host. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night. Thank you for joining Fans Respect.